time to work on Riptide.
Excellent!
Corsair's new A500 dual-fan CPU cooler features quad direct contact copper heat pipes, an intuitive slide and lock fan mount system that allows for variable height for DRAM clearance, and will run cool and quiet with the two included ML120 fans. Installation is painless thanks to the hold-fast retention system, which supports all modern desktop sockets, and it comes with Corsair's high-performance XTM50 thermal paste pre-applied. Click the sponsor link in the description to learn more.
So this is a box of Alpha Cool stuff, various fittings and quick disconnects and things from when I originally put Riptide together. If you guys missed that, it was all done over the course of 2019. This is a Corsair 1000D massive case. There's a big high-end desktop Threadripper 2-based system in the top, and then in the bottom there's a little FreeNAS setup, which has all been working quite well, except for when one of the pumps failed. Actually, it was this pump here on the right that failed. Both of them were originally using some older versions of Alpha Cool's in-house pumps. When that one failed, they sent me two replacements, the VPP655s here, and these are based on Lang D5 pumps, which are kind of the universal, well-respected, very reliable pumps that are often used in water cooling. What I should have done at the time was replace both of those pumps with the pumps that Alpha Cool sent to replace them. But instead I was like, hey, only one pump failed, that must be not a very common thing, so I am just going to swap out the one pump. And then everything was fine for a little while, and then I think it was back in like October that I was thinking to myself, hey, I'm gonna pull Riptide out and do some maintenance on it, flush the loop, show like what a responsible high-end water-cooled system owner is supposed to do when it comes to regular maintenance. Right about that same time, other pump failed. That was followed up by some other chaos, and I don't even exactly remember what happened. The end of 2019 was pretty much a blur for me, but long story short, I have quick disconnects built in all over the system because I built it to be a system that I use. And it is the system that I use. It's my main editing system, and it has dual loops. Two pumps, one feeds the CPU loop, one feeds the GPU loops. Fortunately though, when one pump fails in this system, I can use the quick disconnects to sort of reconnect stuff. So I've left this pump and reservoir completely out of the loop, and everything has just been running on that single D5 pump for about the last 2.5 to 3 months now. So here's that original bad pump. This is a VPP755 in case you're wondering, and don't worry, I believe they have discontinued these because they did not have a good reputation. This is that VPP655. This is just the pump unit itself by itself, and that fits into this little housing, and that's what Alpha Cool makes that's unique, that has all the inlets and outlets and everything. So for today's video, we have two goals. One is going to be general maintenance on this system, and as you can probably see, plenty of dust is built up on the fan intakes at the front. We've even got some spiderweb action going on, so hopefully whatever made these webs isn't still living in the system somewhere. We'll see if we come across that. I would like to be flushing both of these loops. As you can maybe tell, the color is a bit off here. This is the loop that has still been running, although that's fairly cloudy. One on the left has started to turn a little green. That's a little bit of a concern. The coolant I have been using is clear, but it is a premix with biocide integrated into that, so I guess that's just something we might need to flush out. Might end up flushing the radiators and everything, but of course need to get the pump swapped out. So basically I'm going to disassemble and take apart most of this because I really want to get in there and clean it out pretty good. There is plenty of dust buildup pretty much everywhere inside this system. I guess I could also mention that the tempered glass side panel ever since that pump failed has been off, so even more dust has been getting inside the system than would usually. And then the last thing, the final goal for this video, if I can get that far, I never actually went and did like sexy B-roll shots and good footage of the system after it was all assembled, put together, and had the lighting set up. So if I can get it taken apart, put back together, cleaned out, reset up, I'm thinking about rewiring some of the fans as well. Then at the end, I will hopefully be providing you guys with a little bit of a montage of this system in what is hopefully its final form. So a lot of work has been done so far. We're kind of right in the middle of it, right in the thick of things. Pulled most of the hardware out of the system. Most of the wiring is still in there, and I'm going to try to leave that as is because a lot of it's kind of confused back there. I might rewire some of the RGB stuff, but for now, the main goal is to work on all the water cooling stuff. So I got to disassemble these blocks, I've determined, because there's a fair amount of growth going on in the reservoirs. What's interesting is I was using the system for, I would say, a good 6-7 months when it was going on 2 separate loops. Never saw anything like that. It was really once I switched over and started having both of the loops on the same pump that I started to see some growth. The pump reservoir on the left also that hasn't been being used has turned slightly greenish, so that is also not good. When it comes to stuff growing in your loop, that's bad. You generally don't want that. It's not the end of the world though, and it can be fixed and solved. It can also lead to, unfortunately, a little bit of discoloration, as you can possibly see on some of these pieces of the monoblock that I've disassembled. I managed to scrub a lot of that off using the Jay's 2 cents method of the Crest 3D white toothpaste and several of the scrubby brushes that I have here. So next up on the agenda is to continue doing this type of method with the rest of the parts that I think need to be scrubbed out. I've decided that I think I do need to disassemble these GPU blocks, at least to get in there and see if there's any other types of growth. You might have noticed when I took apart the monoblock, the actual contact plate here had a bit of algae growing in the middle there. It was just started, fortunately, so I think we caught it early enough. And mostly what you're seeing on here is discoloration. I'm not catching a whole lot of what I have deemed to be corrosion. Once everything gets put back together, I think I'm going to spend a little bit more time making sure that I've got a nice mix of biocide going on in there to prevent further potential growth in the loop. For now though, I got a lot more scrubbing to do. Good thing I got a full tube of toothpaste. Shit. I have no idea how this happened, guys, but I think when I first had the pump fail that I had to replace, however many months ago that happened, I maybe did it a little bit hastily and didn't look close enough at what the heck I was actually doing. I thought that AlphaCool had sent me 2 D5 replacement pumps, which is the VPP655 pumps. But then I'm taking apart the pump and reservoir assembly there, and I pulled off the one that everything has been running on for the past however many months, both loops, and I looked and it's also a VPP755. So I guess lesson 1 is that these pumps don't always die, and this one has been working for some time, and again, going through both loops with a significant amount of resistance in there thanks to all the quick disconnects and radiators and blocks that are part of the loop. But this one's still functional. The one that they sent me as a replacement that didn't include the top piece, so I had to remove the top piece from this one that did fail. This is the original VPP755 that failed. So I've swapped in this D5 pump there, and this one should now be good to go. I need to do leak testing first to make sure that the seal down here is good, but this is a D5 pump, and these are the pumps that I've used that have been the most reliable for me in the long haul. So I tricked you guys, I fooled you, because at the beginning of this video, I was kind of optimistic. I was like, hey guys, we're gonna do some maintenance, we're gonna clean some stuff out. At the end of this video, we're gonna have sexy B-roll. Made some promises, but that was just to set you guys up for what would ultimately be a video about failure. Because water cooling, I guess. That's really what this boils down to. Water cooling is complicated, custom water cooling even more so. And when you're trying to go in and swap parts in and out here and there can be such minor little things that lead to such major, major problems. Now, on the plus side, I've gotten my radiators flushed for the most part. I used a setup we had over in the sink. Just kind of taped some tubing onto the sink itself in order to flush them through. And then over here, I set up the new D5 pump to both test this pump to make sure it's watertight, and also to flush the radiator with distilled water. And that actually worked, not ideally, but it worked okay. We got through it, so that was just fine. And then I decided, all right, it's getting later in the day. I need to get the system back up and running. Let's start reassembling everything, starting with this newly replaced D5 pump, going back into my custom brackets that I made here back in the Riptide videos last year in 2019, which I custom drilled holes in so that it would hold the pumps up side by side in a reasonably secure fashion, and then I was able to prop the reservoirs up on top. And then, as I dropped this down into the brackets, my whole world came crashing down around me. I don't know if you can tell from where you're at, but this D5 based pump is physically about not quite a centimeter, maybe a bit less than a centimeter taller than the VPP 755 pumps from Alpha Cool. What does this mean? It means a couple things. First and foremost, these holes that I, again, custom drilled, I didn't do the best job, but it worked cleanly enough to mount, don't line up anymore because the whole unit sits up just maybe shy of a centimeter higher. Then you think, all right, maybe that's not the hugest problem because maybe there's other points on the bracket or some other configuration to mount this that would work. But I want to point something else out. You know how fat that top radiator is with the push-pull 140mm fans going? With this whole unit set up where it was, and the reservoir, and the super cool double helix reservoir on top of there, I have very little clearance between the fittings coming out the top, because I've also got some angled fittings coming off the top, and that reservoir. Like next to nothing. I am not even sure if this were to just be sitting directly on top of this bracket, if I would still have enough room for all that stuff together. So when I said I fooled you guys, maybe you guys believe me that at the beginning of this video I had this all in mind, or maybe you see the truth, which is that I'm just sort of out of ideas right now for how to get this system up and running, apart from going all air. But how silly would that be with this case and these reservoirs and all the work that's been put into it so far? If I wanted to do that, I might as well just pull all the hardware out, get 2 separate cases, install them all there with air coolers, and I could probably have that finished in like an hour and a half or something like that. But that would be way too practical and sane of a choice for me. So what I'm doing instead is making this a 2-part video at minimum. I'm going to figure out some different solutions for the pump reservoir combos. I might not end up using these double helixes anymore if I can't get them to fit with some other solution. But as I've mentioned, this is a fairly important computer for me to have up and running, so I better figure all this stuff out really quickly. Maybe you guys can help me out. If you have any suggestions for me, feedback, comments, or if you just want to say, Paul, you're an idiot, why did you do this amount of water cooling in a system you were planning to use on a regular basis? Leave me all those comments in the comment section down below. I would love to hear them. Maybe hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed watching me fail in this video. Think very seriously to yourself if you're considering doing a water-cooled build. Are you willing to deal with some of the frustrations and setbacks? I will say, if I didn't have a video deadline to hit, if I didn't have a system that was pretty important to get back up and running, I would see this as like an opportunity, like, oh, now I get to figure something else out, which I do still get to do. I'm gonna come back fresh to this in the next video, and I think that'll be a good idea as well. That's all I got time for this one, though, you guys. Once again, if you enjoyed it, leave me all of your feedback. I love you all. I hope you have a great, wonderful time. Don't water cool. It's bad. It's a bad idea. We'll see you guys next time.
Okay guys, here's a little epilogue to this video because I didn't want to leave it with that sad ending. Here is the system. It is up and running, it is functional, and I've actually been using it to finish the edit off on this video. There's me looking all sad with the computer not working properly. So I've left the GPU loop out of it. The front radiators and fans are just not there anymore. I got this very small reservoir from my wife's old build hotbox that wasn't currently in use, washed it out really well, and that's currently sitting on top of the single D5 pump, which is in the Alpha Cool bracket on top of that. That allowed me to reconnect up the CPU loop up on top, reassemble the monoblock, and that's working just great. And then I just have an Asus RTX 2080 Ti in there, air-cooled, and that has given me, once again, a functional version of Riptide. But as I said before, this is not the end. I will be attacking this one more time. I need to find a different solution for the dual pumps, because with these brackets here, with the pump in the higher position, there's definitely not enough clearance between the top fans and the top of the reservoir and the fittings that need to come off of that to fit everything. So that's my dilemma. Once I get those in, I hopefully reinstall the double helixes, get the fans and front rads installed. That will all be handled in a future video. So again, thank you guys for bearing with me for this one. Keep stuff like this in mind if you're planning on doing water cooling. Make sure that you have solutions in place if you need to take a system down to do maintenance on it. That's all for this one, guys. We'll see you in the next video.